What would you do if the kitchen you built with your own hands, a place once defined by dust, desperation, and the bone-deep, hollow ache of survival, suddenly transformed into the absolute threshold of a new, sacred existence? The farmhouse sits nestled against the jagged, unforgiving mountain pass, an island of amber light in a vast sea of indifferent, towering pines. Inside, the air is thick, almost syrupy, with the intoxicating scent of wood smoke, crushed wild herbs, and the sweet, starchy fragrance of root vegetables simmering in a heavy, heirloom cast iron pot. Tu Tien stands by the hearth, her linen apron dusted with a fine, ghostly layer of flour, watching as Mother Ly cautiously approaches the stove with a mix of reverence and disbelief. They are no longer the desperate refugees fleeing the dark, suffocating shadow of their past. They are the architects of a new, quiet, and resilient life. But can the simple, rhythmic, and meditative act of cooking a shared meal truly wash away the lingering, jagged cold of the years they spent running? Or is the fragile peace they found just a temporary glass house, waiting to be shattered by the next violent gust of mountain wind? Tu Tien reaches for a bundle of fresh, dew-kissed greens, her movements deliberate, slow, and precise, teaching without ever lecturing. She presses the handle of the sharp steel knife into Mother Ly's hand, a small, weightless, yet monumental gesture that carries the massive, crushing burden of absolute trust. The secret to this dish, Mom, Tu Tien says, her voice barely rising above the rhythmic, comforting crackle of the flames, isn't the exotic spice or the expensive ingredient we once thought defined quality. It's the patience. It's the deliberate choice of letting the flavors slowly find each other, just like we are finally, painstakingly finding our own pace here in this soil. Mother Ly takes the cold steel blade. Her hands are steady, though she moves with the lingering, perceptible hesitation of a woman who spent decades trapped in a frantic, suffocating rush, never once stopping to savor the miraculous process of living. She begins to chop. The rhythmic, percussive thud-thud of the steel against the seasoned, scarred wooden board creates a hypnotic, calming sound that seems to push the crushing silence of the wilderness back beyond the heavy oak door. She looks at Tu Tien, her eyes softening, blurring in the warm, golden lamplight. For the first time since the catastrophic collapse of their old world, she isn't looking at her daughter-in-law as a liability, an assistant, or a mirror reflecting her own deep-seated failures. She is looking at an equal, a partner, a daughter. I spent so many brutal years cooking just to keep us breathing, just to keep the lights on for one more night, Mother Ly whispers, her gaze fixed intently on the steam curling from the pot like a fading ghost of her former, jagged anxiety. I never had the luxury or the courage of thinking about whether it tasted like home or whether the people eating it were actually happy. Tu Tien reaches out, covering Mother Ly's wrinkled hand with her own, gently halting the repetitive mechanical motion. The kitchen falls into a profound, heavy, and sacred silence, the only sound the steady, rhythmic, and reassuring bubbling of the rich soup. You don't have to carry that crushing, invisible burden anymore, Mom. The survival part is dead and buried. Now, we cook because we choose to. We cook because we have a home that belongs to us, not a temporary, fleeting shelter we are constantly terrified of losing. Mother Ly looks around the room, taking in the clean, sturdy, handmade lines of the cabinets Jack had spent weeks sanding, the soft, amber light filtering through the small kitchen window, and the way the house seems to wrap its arms around them like a physical, impenetrable shield. A flicker of something profound, a release, a genuine, painful letting go of the iron armor she wore for years passes over her weary face. She smiles, a real, unforced, and radiant expression that finally reaches her tired eyes. She turns back to the pot, adding the vibrant greens with a graceful, confident motion. They work in tandem, a silent, beautiful dance honed by the shared, grueling, and transformative labor of the last 3 months, moving with a synchronicity that only comes from deep, shared, and unspoken suffering. Every single movement is intentional. They talk, not about the dark, terrifying past, not about the cold, lonely nights spent shivering in the damp, rat-infested barn, and certainly not about the sheer, soul-crushing exhaustion of the construction process. They talk about the small, beautiful, and eternal things. The way the resilient kale grew despite the early biting frost. The best way to preserve the earthy roots for the long, encroaching winter ahead. And the wild, untamed dreams they share for the garden blooming in the coming spring. It is the conversation of people who are no longer afraid of what the dark, looming future holds. It is the language of true, unshakable belonging. Jack watches from the shadows of the doorway, leaning against the rough-hewn frame, his presence initially unnoticed by the two women. He sees the way they move around each other, the way they share the small, rhythmic tasks, and the absolute ease with which they inhabit this space. The kitchen, once a chaotic construction zone of deafening noise, mounting frustration, and frantic, hollow ambition, has finally become the beating, steady heart of their entire world. He feels a thick lump form in his throat, a sudden, overwhelming, and painful gratitude for the sheer, indomitable resilience of these two women. They have survived the absolute worst of the storm, and now they are beginning the slow, steady, and holy work of simply living. The steam thickens, fragrant, rich, and grounding, filling the room with the scent of the rugged countryside they have finally managed to tame with their own blood and sweat. Mother Ly stirs the pot, her posture relaxed, her shoulders dropped from the high, guarded, and defensive position she's held for as long as Jack can remember. She is at peace. She is no longer the woman who arrived with a blindfold, questioning the sanity of the project and the stability of her children. She is the proud matriarch of a farm forged in love, sacrifice, and unbreakable blood. "It smells like childhood," Mother Ly says, a touch of genuine, childlike wonder in her voice. "I hadn't cooked this specific dish in a decade. I'd forgotten how it could make a place feel finished, like a destination instead of a stopover." Tu Tien laughs, a clear, bright, and musical sound that cuts through the gravity of the moment. She pulls 2 clean bowls from the pine rack, setting them down on the center table with a soft clack. "Everything is finished, Mom. We're finally at the starting line of a real life." They sit together as the sun dips below the jagged, purple-hued mountain range, casting long, golden fingers of light across the scarred, beautiful kitchen floor. The meal is simple, a local specialty, rich, earthy, and bursting with the true flavors of the mountain soil. But as they eat, the entire world outside ceases to matter. The farm, the isolation, the crushing social challenges, everything is reduced to the circle of warmth at this table. They talk long into the evening, their voices a soft, steady hum against the deepening, velvety dark outside. There are no barriers left, no dark secrets, no heavy, suffocating silences born of hidden, festering anxiety. There is only the living presence of each other, the comfort of a full stomach, and the profound knowledge that tomorrow will bring another day of work that is theirs alone to define. There is a quiet, noble dignity in their labor now, a stark, crystalline contrast to the performative, hollow, and soul-rotting success of the fast-paced city life Jack once desperately chased. As the solitary candle on the table flickers, casting long, dancing, and ethereal shadows against the walls, Mother Ly reaches out and takes Tu Tien's hand. The gesture is small, simple, and entirely, life-alteringly transformative. It is the final, undeniable recognition of a bond that is no longer based on the primitive necessity of fleeing, but on the conscious, daily choice to build a legacy. They have built more than just a house. They have built a family that has the depth and strength to withstand whatever the unpredictable mountain throws at them. When the meal is finally over, they clean up in the same rhythmic, shared silence that they cooked with. They are a perfectly synchronized team, locked in a common noble purpose, supported by the sturdy, unshakable reality of the home they have painstakingly created. Jack finally steps into the room, his presence breaking the intense, sacred spell of the evening, but the warmth remains, anchoring them all to the spot. He takes a seat, and for a moment, the three of them just sit there in the dark, completely content in the quiet, surrounded by the physical fruits of their long, agonizing, and beautiful labor. The night air presses against the windows, cool, vast, and ancient, but inside, the kitchen is a bastion of light, life, and hope. The house holds the heat, the memories, and the ironclad promise of a future that they will define together on their own terms. There are no more tests, no more obstacles to overcome tonight. There is only the simple, profound, and miraculous reality of being home. They have crossed the final threshold from the life they were desperately running from to the life they were always meant to be running toward. And as the fire in the stone hearth dims to a warm, pulsating, and glowing ember, they know with absolute certainty that they are exactly where they are meant to be. The kitchen is quiet, the dishes are put away, and the house settles into the deep night, breathing with the rhythmic, steady, and reassuring pulse of a family that is, for the first time in their lives, finally, truly, and undeniably together. They are not just surviving anymore, they are thriving. One meal, one shared conversation, and one day at a time. The road ahead is open, the possibilities are infinite, and the strength of their connection is the only compass they will ever need to navigate the dark. They are safe, they are home, and they are ready for whatever the new day brings. The embers fade, the room falls into soft shadows. But the warmth, the deep, abiding, and soulful warmth of a life built with love remains, steady and sure, through the long, quiet reach of the night. They sleep, they dream, and they know that when the sun rises, they will wake up in a place that belongs to them. A place where they have finally, at long last, found their peace. The farm sleeps, the mountains watch, and the story of their life continues, a narrative of redemption, a testament to resilience, and a beautiful, quiet celebration of the simple, sacred act of sharing a home. Each board they placed, each nail they drove, each doubt they overcame has culminated in this singular golden reality. They are not defined by what they lost, but by what they have had the courage to create from the ashes. The silence deepens, cradling the farmhouse in a gentle, rhythmic embrace that pulses with the quiet, vibrant life they have finally earned. They have moved beyond the need for external, hollow validation, beyond the hunger for the recognition of their old, fickle peers, and into a state of profound, unshakable fulfillment. As the embers glow one last time, they become a single, unified force against the vast, indifferent wilderness, not by conquering it, but by aligning themselves with its patient, enduring pace. The cycle is complete. They are exactly where they need to be, and they are exactly who they were always meant to become. The future waits, bright and unwritten, and for the first time in their lives, that uncertainty is not a threat, but a beautiful gift they are finally prepared to open. The house is a start, a foundation, and a promise that no matter how hard the road becomes, no matter how heavy the burden, they will always find their way back home. And in the end, that is all that really matters. The journey was long, the cost was high, but the destination, this life, is the greatest prize they could have ever hoped for. They are home. They are together. They are finally, mercifully, at peace. The house stands as a silent witness to their devotion, a monument to their struggle, and a testament to their love, holding them fast in the soft, dark quiet of the night. It is a new beginning, a fresh start, and a beautiful, quiet triumph over the uncertainty that had haunted their steps for so long. Every day they wake up here, They are choosing each other all over again. They are building a legacy of kindness, grit, and unwavering love that will be passed down through the very foundations of this earth. As the first light of dawn touches the peaks, the farmhouse remains, a lighthouse for their souls, promising that no matter what the storm brings, they are anchored, they are loved, and they are, at last, home.